Here's some great news from Tom Trento, host of the daily WNN Trento Vision Show. Due to the unparalleled success of the Trento Vision Show, you now have an amazing opportunity to advertise on the Trento Vision Show. If you want more information about this excellent opportunity for your business, please contact Tom Trento at 561-319-5533, or you can email him, tom@trentovision.tv. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or tom@trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Okay. Oh, we have Commander Kirk back there right now.
Yeah,
Commander Blake.
Switch at the engineering staff.
Yes, different pilots. We lost Joe. Where's Joe? Is he out of here? Bye, Joe.
Bye, Joe.
He's getting better. Joe is, he gets into some of this stuff,
Yeah, he does.
you know, and he suggested a book for me, The Harbinger.
Never heard of that one.
Have you heard of The Harbinger? No. I think it's, I looked at it quickly. It's a novel, and it's written in it's one of these kind of dramatic novels that tracks real life. But the thesis is basically what happened to Israel before Israel fell as a nation, was defeated, is exactly what's happening in the United States right now. So Israel was a harbinger to the situation in America, and we can see exactly how America is going to fall. It's a novel, but I had heard about it. I had wanted to read it, so I just went to Amazon. Not one of our sponsors, but they should be, Amazon. And I'm in the little book club there. They have a phenomenal, I don't know if you've been watching Amazon on the news lately. Their warehouses are like 6 football fields. They're hiring 50,000 people right now.
Really? Wow.
They try to stock one of everything in the world. And they don't stock it as you would think in any systematic, all the razors here, all the dishwashers over here, and they sell all this kind of stuff. All the books over here. They just have these squares, and the humans pack the squares on the shelf the best way they can with the size of the package. So as you go down these just miles and miles, if this little box fits here, they put it there. And it's totally counterintuitive. Then you go, okay, how do you get this stuff out? Everything's barcoded. So when something's ordered, it tells you it's in aisle 4, bin 2 to the right. So then they have pickers go and pick it in. And the efficiency of it is instead of having shelves that adjust, the boxes adjust to the shelves. Pretty cool concept. But they're also one of the most efficient online buying things. Within 2 clicks, you bought something. You go, I like this, check out. Boom. Mm-hmm. And I'm in their Prime Club, and it comes the next day. And and then all reduced rates. So thank you, Joe, for the recommendation of The Harbinger. This is Tom Trento, Trento Vision, the second hour. Hour number 2 on a beautiful Thursday afternoon, couple of days before Chanukah. We're going to talk about Chanukah. I know that's an alternative spell. We're going to learn Hebrew here today, too. New Jersey Hebrew we're going to learn. Where were you born?
The Bronx.
In the Bronx. All right, Bronx
Riverdale.
Hebrew. Riverdale. We're going to learn some Riverdale Hebrew here.
Oh, by the way, this is not Mark in the chair, and I have not approved my
Oh,
appearance.
that's right. Okay,
I have not approved
right.
my appearance.
And we should tell everybody. Oh, Mark put a jacket on, and Mark.
Sorry, Mark, I'm a shapeshifter.
Mark looks
I
different.
got kicked out by a rabbi.
We have a pecking order here. Rabbis get the chair, and
Pagans on the ground. Pagans on the ground.
Unitarians on the ground. So, but the ground here, now it's 78 degrees in here. What is going on? Blake, make it colder here. What do you mean? It's the
He's got it. He's got it. He's all over it.
Okay.
Scotty.
But what is it outside, Mark? You have a weather report?
Yes, I
for
do
us?
have a weather report. It is 76 degrees outside and cloudy.
Okay, that's good.
And Mike?
And we are a full service radio
Right.
network here. We will deliver the traffic report for all of you from Kissimmee all the way down to Miami on I-95 on the Turnpike. How's the traffic, Mike?
There will be cars everywhere.
Okay, there it is. Cars everywhere. You got that down. So you don't have to go anywhere else for your knowledge and logistics of traveling. But if you want your head filled with good information that deals with cultural issues, national security, all the serious stuff, and we kind of throw a little sugar and salt in it to spice it up a bit. But the last hour, Ted Bellman, an analyst, national security analyst, with the blog. You know what blog? You know where the word blog came from? Why?
Steve McQueen, 50s movie.
You know,
60s movie.
it's become part of the American lexicon. Anybody
That
have
was
an
a blob.
idea
That was a blob. I'm
where it
sorry.
came from? Mike, blog? Anybody blog? I'm gonna do it. You ready?
Go ahead.
Anybody out there? 888-565-1470. Here we go. Weblog. Weblog.
Blog.
Weblog. And a web on the internet, the website, weblog. To log in your thoughts on the website on a daily basis. Weblog. Somebody said, just call it blog instead of weblog. Blog.
Yeah.
That's where it came from. You can learn everything here on
That's
TrentoVision.tv.
a wealth of information.
Yes, a wealth of information. And the next word we're going to learn, the word of the day is, we should do a word of the day, but if you need a lawyer for today, it's Peter Feynman, F-E-A-M-A-N, FeynmanLaw.com. Peter can handle all your litigation needs.
Oh, we have a correction on your
What?
web log.
What?
It's web log.
Weblog. What did I say?
You didn't, well, I just got a correction. It said it's actually web log. Yeah,
Web.
log, blog, web log, blog,
Weblog.
log. Right.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
W-E-B-L-O-G.
Right.
2 words.
Okay.
It's where you log in your information on the web. Who's correcting me?
Pagan.
Oh, okay. If you correct me, you better correct me. I have made a mistake or two in my life, or 3 or 4 or 5, but God is gracious, right, Rabbi? He is gracious, that's for sure.
Let's hope.
Let's hope, yeah. Last hour we had Ted Bellman dealing with some of the serious issues on the ground, and he painted a picture of, enemies surrounding Israel, and it is escalating up. I mean, those of us in this work see it on a daily basis. And he said the Israelis go about their business, every day and kind of just deal with it. And we saw that, Mark. And in fact, what was your impression when you saw that attitude there?
It actually really frustrated me because it's just, all right, they're launching rockets at you. What are you going to do? You get 15 seconds to get into a cage. Oh, well, we'll build bomb shelters in our house. Well, what if you're out in the street? Well, we've built bomb shelters in our bus stations. What happens if they, attack? Well, we'll defend ourselves. And it's like a fighter with his hands behind his back, and he's just dodging and trying not to get hit. And and here's the other part of it that really frustrated me.
This is from your trip
Right.
there in February, spending time, going all over the country, talking to a lot of people. We did hundreds of interviews and all of that. Go ahead.
And one of the other things was they took so much pride in if a terrorist attack, occurred inside the city, is they were really proud that it only took them like 22, 23 minutes to clean it up and move on with their daily lives. It's like we want it just to go away, and if we don't let them destroy our lives or we see it, then we just go on. It doesn't happen, and it's just
Very defensive mindset.
very defensive
yeah.
mindset. As quickly as you can clean up, as quickly as you get it out, we want to move on with our lives. We don't want to see the horror of it. We just want to move on.
Yeah.
Bury
I know.
it. Forget about it. It's very in psychology. It's almost repressive. You just like, okay, He's beating me. It's like a wife abuse. He's beating me. He's beating me. Okay, I just want to stop, and I want to put on the makeup and go on.
If we do anything, the world's going to be against us. So
Right.
we'll just
And if I do
defend
anything against this guy who's hitting me and beating me, it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. So what I have to do is I have to appease him. I have to do what he wants me to do, so he doesn't beat me.
And every 4 or 5 years, they strike out, and then the world goes.
And then, and the man comes in there and beats him across the head. Okay, he's beating me today, but as long as soon as he stops, everything will be okay. And that's the mentality that.
And then the beater who gets defeated by the Israeli IDF, then claims some sort of I can't see that. Kathleen Orlando, Catherine.
But it's a mental abuse cycle that Israel has put herself into, and it's
not
not healthy.
We have a rabbi here. Maybe he can help us. Rabbi, help us out. What is going on in the mind of the Israelis?
Well, when I pursued my master's degree in Chicago, I had a professor from Hebrew University who was a visiting professor, and he said, I know Mark, is frustrated, and it is frustrating and dangerous, but he said, I have children. I'm a few blocks away from the university. I walk to Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I walk by a cafe. I know it was bombed during the Second Intifada. Tens of people were killed by these terrorists. But I go in, because life's got to go on. And he said, my children, I know they got to get on a bus. Blown up by suicide bombers. This bus line was blown up during the Second Intifada, which was really 5 or 6 years of sustained terrorism against the Israelis. He said, what are you going to do? Kids got to go to school. So it's a combination. One is, Mark, I agree with you. It's frustrating because why can't something be done that will finally solve this problem, this crisis? On the other hand, the people just have to live. And if you live every moment thinking about potential disaster, apocalypse, genocide, you can't move. So they're trying to do a balancing act.
A balancing act.
Yeah.
Well, let's tell everybody who you are. We have you in studio, Rabbi Eli Kavon. Kavon is from where? Where?
My family is from Belarus, from a village called Matala. My father's family, which was near Pinsk, near Minsk. It's only famous because, very small town, only famous because the first president of Israel, Chaim Weizmann, was born there. But it was destroyed during the Holocaust by, not only by the Nazis, but by collaborators from Belarus who set up a Nazi puppet government in 1944 and eventually ended up becoming U.S. citizens as anti-Stalinist partisans hired by a secret wing of the State Department in the 1950s.
Wow. Now, your folks, where did they come from before Belarus? Did you ever trace your lineage back?
Well, for Jews from...
Because you've been diasporaed all over the place.
Jews from Eastern Europe and Jews... Well, it's easier for Jews from Germany and Jews from the Sephardic, from the Spanish-Portuguese world, to trace their genealogies because they had family names, which Eastern European Jews didn't have in the Russian Pale of Settlement until the 1820s.
They didn't
have family names. It was just Yankel, the son of Reuven, or whatever, and Sarah. So it's much harder, and also because of the Holocaust, and Stalinism, because so much of the information was suppressed or destroyed, so it's very hard. So I can go back 5 generations, but the only reason I know about the life of my grandparents who were immigrants here, Yiddish-speaking immigrants, was that Weizmann wrote his autobiography, the first president of Israel, and he wrote about his upbringing, so that's how I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
You would not know.
No.
All right, and you were born in Brooklyn, is it?
I was born in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, okay, yeah, Riverdale.
Riverdale.
All right, and tell us your pilgrimage into the rabbinate and how you wound up here and what your purpose for living is, what you're doing, and then we'll get into some of these issues.
All right, I really need to start with my parents and my father, who was a second-generation American. My grandparents were Yiddish-speaking immigrants. My grandfather was a house painter in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Could barely speak English. My father was in his youth was an infantry sergeant in the American Army during the Second World War. And
Your dad?
My dad.
Okay.
He died 13 years ago.
Just move a little closer.
Sure. He died 13 years ago. So my dad was an infantry sergeant, 97th Infantry Division, the Trident Division. He fought in Europe in the last 2 months of the war, in Germany and Bohemia, then went on to be in MacArthur's army in Japan, the occupation army. So, Tom, I just want to tell you, just connected to Hanukkah, and the reason I'm a rabbi, and the reason I've devoted service to the Jewish community. So my father, he was part of a strong army that was on the verge of victory. But the letter he wrote home to my grandparents and to his sisters, his brothers were in the service, to his sisters was about meeting survivors from Auschwitz, women who were marched 12 miles a day, barefoot, were fed 3 potatoes a day. They told my father in Yiddish, which my father was his first language. These are women from Hungary, Jewish women who survived. And they told him the story. He mentions this in this letter that he saved and eventually published. But young boy, it was a death march. The Nazis were taking them from Auschwitz and marching them on the road. One little boy was starving. He managed to survive. He went out to grab some beets from a field. The German guard shot him down. My father discovered a synagogue with another Jewish soldier from New Haven, Connecticut, been turned into a garbage dump. So my father tried to get German POWs to clean it up. So they said to him, "Sergeant, we know you're Jewish, we sympathize with you, but we got to move out." My father would go into homes in Germany to billet American soldiers, and he would tell the Germans and the civilians who did not destroy Jews physically, but had an idea of what was going on. He told them, he was carrying a rifle, and he said, "I'm a Jew." That's the first thing he told them, and they were scared because they knew their Jewish neighbors disappeared. They went somewhere, but they never came back. They ran out of the house. My father was a Jew carrying a rifle. So, as an American soldier, my father was in a victorious army. But as a Jew, he was almost helpless in terms of what he could do. So that inspired me. And also my mother also is from Savannah, Georgia, studied Hebrew as a youngster, came to New York, met my dad. But Hanukkah, never again. We cannot walk to the train station to be deported to Treblinka, to be gassed and burned again. It can't happen again. And the message of Judah Maccabee is that, martyrdom is not the answer. You got to fight back.
Well, we're going to get into a little more detail in Hanukkah and that story of the Maccabees. That's an interesting pilgrimage that impacted your life. You said your dad published. Now, who was he writing to? Was he writing a series of letters or one letter? Or
he wrote a series of letters which were they were censored by the American government for security reasons, but a Jewish historian who's the official historian of Sir Winston Churchill, Sir Martin Gilbert.
Sure, he's well known. Sure,
he published a book on VE Day, on victory in Europe, and he included letters that my father wrote.
Really?
And my father saw them before he died, which was terrific. I was just glad he had a chance to see them in print. But that really, from an early age, I asked my dad when I was 4 years old, "Daddy, what did you do in the war?" And my father told me.
Wow. Where are the original letters right now?
The original letters are at my mom's. Thank God she's doing well. She lives in Broward, in Sunrise. And the letters, I download, I put them all, put them all into the computer, saved them. They're already yellowing, and they're dating back to 45. But that's really, I want to tell you one story. Again, I don't want to dominate.
No. We're here to
just tell you a story about, in terms of Hanukkah and the importance. And Hanukkah is about freedom of religion, certainly, and the Maccabees fighting to sacrifice in a purified temple in Jerusalem. But Judah Maccabee never gave up on political sovereignty, on Jewish independence. The Hellenists said, you fought us, we'll allow you freedom of religion, worship in the temple, but we're going to control politically. Judah said, no, we're fighting for independence. We're fighting for sovereignty and for self-reliance. And just one story. Jan Karski, who was a righteous Gentile, he was a Polish Catholic, a member of the government, the Polish government in exile. He infiltrated the Warsaw Ghetto, where the Jews of Warsaw and surrounding areas were being starved to death and really prepared for extermination in Treblinka, the death camp near Warsaw. He infiltrated, he saw the Jews dying. He infiltrated a death camp in Poland, Belchek. He came to the United States in 1943. So there were two meetings. One was with President Roosevelt, and he said to FDR, he said, you know, in a half an hour through an interpreter, he said, Jews are being destroyed en masse. This is mass murder. And after a half an hour through the interpreter, Roosevelt said, well, Mr. Karski, I promise you, after the war, Poland will be independent. And that was all he said, which it didn't turn out to be.
Yeah, right.
But then he went to Justice Felix Frankfurter, who was a New Deal judge appointed by President Roosevelt, a Jew of German Jewish extraction, not from Eastern Europe. And again, the meeting. Karski met with him, told him exactly what he told Roosevelt: Jews are being destroyed en masse. Justice Frankfurter said, Mr. Karski, I don't believe you. So the interpreter said, how can you say that to a representative of the Polish government in exile? He's not Jewish, he's a Polish Catholic. He's telling you Jews are being murdered en masse, mass murder. So Frankfurter said, I didn't say he was lying. I just said I don't believe him. That's why Hanukkah is important.
Yeah, you're not kidding, man.
And he was Jew. Frankfurter
And
was
he was a Jew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are today on the 6th of December. Hanukkah starts, in 2 days, right?
Yes.
2 days, Saturday night, sundown Saturday night here
Yes.
in the States. And we're with Rabbi Eli Kavon from the Bronx, from Riverdale through, well, we'll get into that in a little bit. Now in Boca Raton, and the way the rabbi got into our studio today, there was a presentation the other night at his synagogue, Beth Ami, in Boca Raton, and the presentation was on the same day of the UN vote for establishing statehood for Palestine. And it was a joint presentation by Rabbi Kavon and by Joe Sabag. We've had him here several times, the head of Florida Zionist Organization of America. So we went over there, Mark, myself, and CJ, and we listened, and we were very impressed with your views and your change of heart on some of these issues.
That was a big thing. And that was a big thing. It was because you were at one direction, and then by the evidence and by the facts on the ground and by what you have learned over the past, you've said, you know what, my past, and I was saying it the other day on air, is that sometimes it takes a lot more courage to say, you know, I wasn't right back then, and I think I was actually wrong, and now I think this is the right way to go.
Yeah.
And tell us what was the
well, before we get into all that, I got to do a couple things here.
Sure.
I'm watching the clock and balancing all this other stuff here. Any callers? I think we have a caller on the line, but we're only taking calls. Some people were calling on a later subject. We're just taking calls related to the issues of Israel and what we're discussing with the rabbi. So if you have any questions for the rabbi or any statements or thoughts, feel free to call. But on this subject, I don't want to get into other subjects right now. 888-565-1470. Once again, 888-565-1470. That will get you right in. Tom Trento with J. Mark Campbell, with the rabbi here, with Invisible Mike. We're waving hello to CJ, who's a little bit under the weather. And if you are listening and you'd like to watch this extravaganza, you can go to TrentoVision.tv in the evening. Everything is archived. You can watch the whole show right there. If you're driving around and your radio is just not too good, download on your smartphones the application, the app iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is an amazing little piece of software that turns your crazy little phone into a radio station. Put in the search bar South Florida, get to South Florida, put in WNN. You'll get us, lock it in, and you have crystal clear digital audio anywhere in the world where there's a radio signal. It's really amazing. It's going to be the way that radio is listened to in the future. Also, if you would be so interested in helping our traveling circus keep on the road, you can go to TrentoVision.tv. There's a little green button that says Donate Securely. You can donate securely, knowing that your donation will not be hacked or anything like that. It's tax deductible. We appreciate that. And we're also opening up opportunities for folks to sponsor the show, like our friend Peter Feynman and BizPack and all these other groups that are we're all working together. If you have a product, as I said many, many times, even if it's junk, we'll sell it. No, we only sell good stuff. Nobody puts out junk, right? Give us a call either through the radio station or send an email to tom@TrentoVision.tv. We'll get you all the information about advertising. We're here 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day, drive time. We go from South Florida, Miami area, all the way up. This is the radio signal, all the way up to just south of Orlando and Kissimmee. I know because I've listened to it going all the way up to there. And there was one other item I wanted to tell you about.
TeaPartyCommunity.com.
Yeah, we had, that's one of our sponsors, TeaPartyCommunity.com, but it was a logistical issue thing, but I forget what it was. But in any event, I'll remember. But 3 to 6 drive time, and our focus is national security issues, and not just foreign stuff, which we deal a lot of because the foreign issues impact the domestic stuff. But we deal with issues of immigration. We deal with issues of, we have somebody on the phone? Hello? Just Kathleen, is that you?
It's Catherine. Yes, I have a question for the rabbi.
Okay, great. Because there was another Catherine, I believe, that was calling in on another issue. But yes.
That's me, but I have another question.
Oh, great. All right, good to have you here. Yes, go ahead.
Rabbi, glad to see you on online anyway. Just wanted to mention that in 2005, I was in Beverly Hills at the Milken Global Conference, and they had the RAND Corporation unveil a plan for the new Palestinian state, and we were all surprised. There'd never been a nation-building effort of its kind.
Yeah.
The first step was to give the Gaza Strip, of course, to the Jewish people of the Gaza Strip and give it to the Palestinians. And then we know what happened with that. It's a disaster. The second part of the plan is to be implemented to give part of the West Bank, of course, and Jerusalem part of that over to the Palestinians. What do you, with the UN saying that Palestine can be a nation or recognizing them, is that without voting power right now? I mean, what do you think is happening?
I'll tell you. My answer would be something that I said when Tom and Mark were at my synagogue a few days ago. And that is that the reality of Israel, the reality of the Middle East, is not about pieces of paper. It's not about votes. It wasn't about the 47 partition, which the Arab League absolutely condemned, or about UN Resolution 242, which the Arab League also said no recognition, no negotiation. The fact is that areas where I've studied in Israel, which are Judea and Samaria, really the Judean hills, what some call the West Bank, the fact is that really it's a matter of facts on the ground. When I was there studying in a yeshiva where the young men serve in the army, they're Orthodox, but they serve in the army, they're religious Zionists. And this was in 82, 83 during the First Lebanon War. There were approximately, I think, 200,000 Jews living in the West Bank, in Judea and Samaria.
Right.
Today, that number has more than doubled. Now, those are facts on the ground, and I think while much of the population lives closer to the Green Line, the fact is that can there be a repeat of Gaza? Can there be a repeat of the sort of evacuation? You had 9,000 settlers in Gaza, Jews who are living there. Can you have a repeat where the Israeli army is going to come in and take out 500,000 people from their homes, going to leave synagogues to be destroyed, cemeteries to be overturned and desecrated? Can that be done? I think the day is too late for that. And I hate to say it because my friends and family, all of them new immigrants, live in Israel. They have children of age for the IDF. I do not want to see them having to go off to war. But the reality is that peace is what we call in Hebrew an ashlaya. At this point, especially when we're dealing with Hamas and Mahmoud Abbas, who doesn't recognize Israel as a Jewish state, peace is just not in the cards for now. And I hate to say it, but the reality of what seems to be the reality of the next generation of Israelis looks like not even status quo. Looks like it's going to be war because of Hamas and because of demographics. So no matter what the Rand Institute unveiled, it really is about facts on the ground and not pieces of paper or resolutions or proposals.
And one other thing, that when I understood that every time our president in the U.S. tries to coax the Israeli prime minister to give away land for peace, that a natural disaster of untold proportions strikes the United States at the time of the peace talks. So do people in Israel realize this, that we're getting slammed, and we should? Rightly so. It's God's land to give away to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know the connection between, natural disaster and God's retribution, but I can tell you that America has tried to act as what they call an honest broker, but and Tom and Mark know this because I mentioned this. I thought, well, Oslo, maybe it can work. I thought, God, I did. I thought a two-state solution could work. Looked at Gaza, said, well, Sharon has a plan. There are 1.3 million Palestinians in Gaza City, only 9,000 Israelis living in Gaza. So there'll never be a hope for a Jewish majority. But the fact is, all these good intentions have led to hell. And that is what I realized only a few years ago. I began to realize that, obviously a one-state solution in terms of what Hamas plans is the end of Israel. But
right.
A two-state solution also in terms of Hamas, in terms, again, of Mahmoud Abbas being a man who can't even recognize Israel as a Jewish state, will not admit Israel as a state of Jews, a state of Jewish revival in the modern period, a state which dates back 3,000 years, and the first 1,000 years of Jewish history were mostly in the land of Israel. A two-state solution is almost equal to Hamas's one-state solution.
And when you say Hamas, Rabbi, is this the same Hamas that has in their charter Israel will exist and continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it? Is that the same Hamas that you're talking about?
I'm talking about the Hamas that sees an Islamic theocracy from the Mediterranean to the Jordan, and that is what they used to say about the Jews in Germany. It's Judenrein. No Jews there.